Welcome to Ideas Sin. My name is Denise, and I am your host for today. And I'm really excited to bring in Kendi. Kendi, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It's been such a great day, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah. Are you enjoying the rain?
I'm not. I'm such a summer baby that I'm like, this is the beginning of like my torturous month, but I know that some people enjoy it, and we all deserve to have our happy days. So I'm glad that I get to stay home and not have to be driving in the rain, though.
Yeah, that's true. I know. As soon as it starts raining, it's like people forget how to drive, and it's always a
Yeah,
nightmare.
yeah. But it's nice when you get to stay at home and just like watch a movie or read a book. That's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's what I really enjoy about the rain too. It's like the noise and then it's like my excuse to just stay in and like you said, like
Hmm.
read a book and just kind of like chill and be cozy in the couch and not have to worry about
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah. This was nice.
Yeah, right. And Austin needs it every once in a while cuz it's just hot and dry here all the time.
Yeah.
But I like that too. So, I get it. Yeah. And so you and I actually met at a hair salon and you were my stylist. And so that was really like just cool to connect because I haven't colored my hair in a long time. And I was like, man, I really don't know if I should do this. And so it was really great to
Hmm.
connect with you because like you love playing with color. Like you've been doing hair for such a long time that
Yeah.
it's just like a natural part of just playing and diving into that creativity. So how long have you been doing hair for?
So it was 6 years this year. So it's been a minute. But I do appreciate people that are like just dabbling into color because there was a time that was me where like I don't want it to be anything crazy. I want it to be very subtle. So I feel like I still hang up to that like part of myself so that I can still relate to that. And now I'm just like so into color that I'm just like one day this is gonna be you one day. You're just gonna love it.
I know. Yeah, that was totally me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to get too wild. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I really
Hmm.
like it. And I'm starting to look at other colors too. So maybe that'll be like some
Uh-huh.
ideas we could play with later on. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Right. And so like what got you into just hairstyling in general? Like what attracted you to doing this kind of work?
Well, that was something that I always wanted to do. I remember being a kid. I grew up in Mexico, and so my mom would have this like neighborhood get-togethers. She always wanted other kids to come to our house, and I would just sit there like braiding the other girls or like playing with their hair, doing their makeup, and it was something that I always loved. When I was in high school, I would do that. We all did it, but it was like you would do your hair, makeup, and take pictures, and then just go take it off. So it was always something that I loved. I always liked the idea of working with magazines and working like custom design. I think it wasn't so much something that I fell into, more so something that I fell out of,
Hmm.
because then people start telling you that it's not like a real career, that it's not, you're never gonna make money, that this idea that you have is just a dream, and you're better off like settling in like a real quote unquote career. So that's what happened to me. It wasn't that I fell into hairstyling, it was more that I fell out of it. And then I just decided to come back to what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did.
No, and that's awesome. And I mean, and so everybody's telling you, yeah, get a real job, go do something
Hmm.
else. So then what did you end up just pursuing instead of hairstyling before you transitioned over?
Um, so the main thing that I did was in the medical field. I was a nursing aide for a long time, and I was a pharmacy tech. Um, Pretty much maybe like 6 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
I also did, odd jobs, and like I worked in some factories and stuff when I was younger, putting myself to school. But yeah, the medical field was where I spent a lot of my time. And it was just like talking to people all the time and, like taking care of people. There's just something so nurturing about that translates into what I do now still. So those were the things that I enjoyed about both.
Yeah. Yeah, there is like a caretaking side to both of them because you're like, even when you're doing hair, you're trying to take care
Hmm.
of the person's need and make them feel good about how they look and how they present themselves to the world. Cause, you get a nice haircut and it just like changes a person's
Yes.
energy, which is awesome. Yeah.
Hair is such a big part of our identity, and so that's something that's never lost on me. That when you sit in my chair, you're trusting me with who you are and how you present yourself to the world. So I would never just compromise that, you know.
Yeah. And so in when you were working as like a tech and an aide as well, I mean, was there a certain point, like, within that time frame where it just kinda hit you where you're like, "Man, I really don't wanna do this." Like, even though it is caretaking and yeah, you are working with people and
Yeah,
stuff like that, at what point were you just like, "I don't wanna do this anymore?"
I think when I turned about 20, 26, 25, it wasn't so much that I didn't want to do it anymore. It was more like, what's next? Like, is
Mm,
this going to be the thing that I do for the rest of my life? And that was never the plan. So it was kind of like, I think I'm at a point in my life where I need to make a decision. So if I want to stay here, then I need to advance in my career. And if not, then I need to make a move. And so I started looking around. I talked to a lot of my nurses because my idea was I'm either going to beauty school or I'm going to become a nurse. But either way, it has to move forward. So I talked to a lot of my nurses and I asked them how they liked it. And like, I asked them, like, do you think I should do this or I should do that? And that's something that I'm really big on, actually. I don't make a decision without consulting with like 55 people. And it helps me out a lot
Yeah.
because even then, a lot of nurses were like, I love what I do, but it's a thankless job, which it is.
It's a what job,
And
sorry?
it's like a very thankless job, like where you put in so much of yourself, and
Yeah.
sometimes like the pay is not as good. This was pre-pandemic even. Now with the pandemic, I know that like our nurses do so much for us, and it's just like you can never repay it.
Mhm.
Um, and so they were like, if you're gonna be a nurse, this needs to be your passion. Like you can't be doing it for the money. You can't be doing it for anything other than the desire to help people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very valid point. And then I went around to different like hair salons and I asked around like, do you like it? Do you feel like it's like do you feel like because you also have to think about like having a livable wage. So that was another thing that I was asking. What school did you go to? Do you enjoy your job every day? Um, my ADHD is like crazy. So if I don't get some type of dopamine from what I do every day, I'm gonna hate it. And so I needed a job that was
Yeah.
gonna give me that for sure. And yeah, a lot of, I mean, they seem to be very happy, and a lot of them were like, just go to beauty school. Like, you're not gonna regret it. If this is something that you enjoy, then you're gonna enjoy it every day.
Yeah.
And so that's how I decided.
Oh, wow. And it's well, and first off, shout out to anybody that's in the medical field because, yeah,
Yes.
it's I definitely see that it's like teachers as well. Like they're not appreciated as much
Mhm.
as they should be. And they're the ones that are out there every single day putting in countless hours, dealing with tons of random
Yes.
people coming in who are stressed out all over the place. And then they have to deal with a lot of that energy and a lot of those emotions and really help to calm
Yes.
people down. Like it's a lot. And honestly, like, they should be taken care of as well. I feel like they should just get, like, free memberships at spas and
Yes.
things like that so that so that they can replenish their energy and they can kind of
I
get
agree.
back to themselves, get massages and stuff because they're constantly running around and it's like they gotta take care of their
Yes.
bodies and yeah, being
And
a
that's the thing with nurturers.
mhm,
They never stop. And they don't ever
yeah,
expect it back, so then they find themselves like pouring and never getting anything in return. So self care is important.
yeah. Self-care is very, very important, and I mean, and you kinda see that now with, like, your clients, right? Like, you typically have
Hmm.
routine clients that come in and they're like, "I'm here for my routine updates on whatever color or whatever cut," and things like that, right?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. We do a lot of maintenance. I specialize in like those long appointments. So a lot of times I'll see my clients for like a full 7 hours and then 2 hours every so often.
Mhm.
So I get to know them really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, like, we've spent a lot of time just talking about a bunch of different things too, which has been so great.
Yeah. I that's my favorite part.
Right? Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you get to just learn about so many things and find, like, the similarities and just understand a
Mhm.
person's life and where they are and where they're going.
Yes,
It's super cool. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And so kind of going taking a step back, so when you were asking, everybody like the different nurses, you were actually really doing like an informational interview with a lot of people. And it's funny because a lot of folks don't necessarily think about doing that when they're trying to jump into another career. They and that's such a huge thing that can actually benefit them is asking these questions and saying like, "Hey, what is your day-to-day like? What are some of your challenges? What are some of the
Yeah,
things that would benefit you or benefit anybody new coming in?" And just bringing um, that knowledge or skill set in and like, what is lacking in the industry and trying to balance that out.
yeah.
But like for you, what was that like when you were like, "Okay, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the nurse, like, the medical field, and now I'm actually gonna go to beauty school." Like, what was that whole feeling like for you?
Um, it was definitely scary. It was leaving a very stable job where I had like perfect hours. I worked 4 hours a week. I mean, I worked 4 days a week. I had a stable paycheck. I had my own apartment. Like it was just like like your late 20s where you're like settling into something
Mhm,
to kind of start over and see if it works. Put in all this extra work in my late 20s, about to be 30 in a couple of years, and I'm starting over. And then after I went to beauty school, I had to start from the bottom. So I did, like a minimum wage job. It was kind of like a, quick turnover type of place. And so I think that beginning stage is like you have to really hold on to your dream because it's the only thing that's getting me through it. Because the constant thought of like, did I make the right decision? Am
mhm,
I gonna make it? Am I gonna fail? And you can't let those thoughts like stop you because they're always gonna be there. But I feel like when we're afraid of change and when we're afraid to be uncomfortable, we're still gonna be uncomfortable.
mhm.
It's just not gonna be doing what you want to do. It's gonna be uncomfortable wondering, and I'd rather just be scared doing it than wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can imagine, like, again, starting over, like, you had to sacrifice a lot of things too. So how much of
Yeah.
your life did you have to really change in order to start doing this and start going to school?
I mean, I had to change everything. Like I said, I was living alone. I have been living alone for years at that point,
Mhm,
and I moved back in with my parents, and then I got a second job. So my day would start at 4 in the morning. I had a private client that I would go to their house from 4 to I want to say 8, and
mhm.
then my school started at 9, and then it was over at 2, and then from there I would go to my second job that was over at 11. So it was thankfully it was only a year, but it
Mhm.
was definitely like and then having to like constantly think that I had to move back in with my parents and like what is this gonna be like at 26?
Yeah.
But thankfully they're great and I love them and we have a great relationship. So they really helped me out by allowing me to do that. And
Yeah.
then when it was over, it kind of puts a fire under you because now, like, you made this change and you put yourself in this situation. So now you have to, like, hit the ground running.
Mhm. And was all of this in the US or back in Mexico?
This was in Arlington, Texas. So
Oh,
I went to school in Arlington. Yeah.
yeah. And so how did you end up did you end up in Austin for school or for work actually? So what brought you into Austin?
No, so that's actually a funny story. I was turning 30 on 2020. And my friends and I always liked Austin. Like we would come and visit and stuff. But for my 30th birthday, we had planned a trip to Spain because I always like that's my bucket list trip. And so we had everything planned, and then the pandemic hit, and so of course we couldn't make that trip. So once like regulations were softened a little bit, and like some like the staying in and stuff was like a little lifted. Um, I was like, well, we saved for this trip and we can't make a big trip, but we can always get like an Airbnb in Austin. And so we did, and we got this like it was super nice because we had the money for a whole trip, so we were able to splurge a little bit. And I was just kind of like, you know what, like we've loved Austin for so long, we always come here to visit, so why don't we just move here? And I had to pretty much start over because once the pandemic hit, like I couldn't take clients, I couldn't work in a salon. I was working as a makeup artist for Mac at the time, and it was the international airport in Dallas,
Oh,
and so
okay.
they were the first place to close. So I had to start over regardless. I figured I might as well start over where I want to live, and
Mhm.
so we moved, and
Yeah.
that's how I ended up here.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then going back to the transitional phase, I mean, how long so you ended up going to school for a year, you were living with your parents in
hmm
Arlington, and then from there, that's when, the trip to Austin happened, or did you have a little bit of time in between before that trip and you decided to
Yeah,
move?
yeah. I had finished school. I started working right out of beauty school. I started working at Great Clips, and then from there, I got that job at Mac, and so I was doing Mac, and then one of my friends was nice enough to offer me a chair at her salon. So I was doing that part time, and I was doing Mac full time. And I was kind of like just getting in the groove of my career, starting to build clientele. And it was I want to say 2 years later that happened.
Mm,
So 28, and then yeah, 30 on 2020.
yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I was finally like grabbing that groove where I was building in my career. Like I was getting clientele, things were happening, and then it was kind of like starting over.
Yeah, and it seems like it was starting over, like, pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Like, it seemed
Yes.
like you were able to yeah, you started a job, but then, like, more and more opportunities just came much faster than you maybe expected?
Mhm. Thankfully, I'm very grateful that that's happened throughout my career. Where like I don't know if it's because I just talk so much, but but I feel like I've met great people that have like connected me to other great people, and I don't know, when you are so passionate about what you do, you talk about it all the time. So it just kind of found me connections like you and I, even that's how we ended up here talking about passions in life. So yeah, I've been very fortunate that my career has opened a lot of doors.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I don't think you talk too much, by the way. Like, I think, like,
Okay, good.
that's part of I mean, that's part of it too because it seems like some clients go in and that's what they wanna do, they wanna talk to somebody, and then there are other people
hmm
that are just like, they mellow out. I know I come in and I kinda
Yes,
go back and forth, but, like, for you, like, that's, like, a constant thing that you have to maintain, so that takes a lot of
yes.
energy on your end.
Honestly, I always say that I'm so grateful for both because I have my clients that come in full of energy and they just want to like talk for 3 hours straight. And then I have the clients that are like, can I just read my book? And so I get a good mix of both. So I'm never worn out by either.
Okay. Yeah, that's really nice. And so how many so let's see. So yeah, you moved over to Austin and then how many places did you work at before you ended up at the current salon?
I've worked in three salons now in Austin. The first salon was an Aveda concept, which I love Aveda, but they're a little bit too. Their big thing is that they're very sustainable and organic. Um, but because of the type of work that I do, I kind of need like a little more power.
Mm,
I work with a lot of dark hair. I work with a lot of Hispanic people, so like our hair tends to be a little bit like harder to break through. So I need that extra chemical.
yeah.
And so that's why I left there. And then I went to my second place, which was called the Hair Room. That was another great concept. It was like very like 90s, and the owner always said that she wanted you to feel like you just walked into like your 90s bedroom, like your dream 90s bedroom. And it really
Yeah.
was. It was like hot pink and like amazing. Um, and now I think she turned it into a venue now, but it's still a
Okay.
great place to go. And now I work at Golden Soul
Mhm.
Salon, where on Lamar, and I've been loving it so far. I mean, I'm so blessed with the team that I'm working with. Everybody likes each other. I think the clients can feel like the great energy that we have working together. So I've been very happy.
Yeah, I know, it's a really cool vibe. I could be very particular about, like, the salons that I go to, and I was just researching so many different salons, and this one I just really clicked with, and so, yeah, I've been very grateful to have come here and, like, have met you and, like, some of your other stylists as well. It's, like, a really cool team. And you guys have, and you have, like, coloring books and stuff, and I'm just like, this
Yes.
is great. This is so therapeutic. A lot of people think like, "Oh, coloring books, it's so immature," but there's actually there's like a therapeutic aspect to it as well because like you're doing
Yes.
something very like mechanical, physical, but like your mind doesn't necessarily have to think about anything and you can literally like draw
Hmm.
within the lines, draw without, play with color, experiment, and it's on paper. It's just like a very freeing little activity. So I appreciate
Yeah.
little things like that.
Coloring books are great busy work because I don't know if this ever happened to you in school, but like when they would give you those math sheets where it was just like very easy calculations and you just like get to relax and not really use your brain for a minute, but still be doing something.
Mhm.
I think some of us have a hard time relaxing by doing nothing, so we need to feel like we're being productive. So a coloring book is just like it hits that like it's in your brain,
Mhm.
so that's why we like them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and I feel like it just yeah, like the creatives, I feel like you gravitate towards that more because
Hmm.
it's like literally you're just allowing your creativity to flow through and it's fun.
Yeah, and I think especially women, we have such a hard time like not doing anything. So having a little something to keep you busy, it's like it helps you relax.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're sitting there waiting for like your hair mask or whatever is happening to
Yeah.
take place. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so then you've been working with color and all of that. I mean, what what was like the first step towards coloring your own hair or coloring somebody else's hair? Was that kind of like a weird or scary moment or were you just like, "Hey, yeah, let me just see how it goes?" Because that is a big step, to completely change your
Yeah.
hair color.
I think the first time I always was intrigued. I mean, I grew up in the 2000s. I was definitely a scene kid. And I don't know if you remember, for like all the colorful extensions, the big hair. So I always wanted to do it, but I was never allowed to. My parents were big on like the traditional way, so my mom said I couldn't color my hair until I was 15.
Mm.
And then when I turned 15, she let me do like a box color that was like just off black. It was like very dark
Mm.
brown. And so it was just like the excitement of like it didn't look any different, but I felt different.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of loved that. And then the first time I did something that wasn't natural. I was probably in my 20s, and Christina Perry was really big at the time. It's
Mhm.
always it's always that. It's always an artist, and so she had like a blonde streak, and I let my friend do it, and I was having an anxiety attack. Like I was sitting
Oh,
there
really?
crying, cause yeah, cause like we're so in control of our image, and then
Yeah.
you're just trusting another person to hopefully not completely ruin the way that you're presenting yourself to the world. And she did a great job. And I had my little blonde streak, and I kept it for a minute. And then I don't think I did anything else. I just kept doing like I used to do box color a lot because I didn't know any better. And so it was years and years of red box color. And then I remember at one point I went to a salon in like downtown Fort Worth or something. And I told the girls that I wanted to get my hair done professionally. And so I explained like, yeah, like I've been doing box color for years, blah blah blah. I have a lot of hair, you relate.
Mhm.
And so they pretty much laughed in my face.
But
And I remember that feeling, like I held on to it, and I was like, nobody's ever gonna feel like that around me when I'm doing hair.
yeah.
And so I think, yeah, those type of experiences kind of molded the type of stylist that I am. But yeah, then I did from the red hair and beauty school. One of my friends turned me pink, and I just loved it. And then I've done every color now.
Yeah, I know, like, I think you've been in, like, this, like, kinda green emerald phase for a little bit,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yes.
So how often do you have to
We're
maintain
actually
it?
prepping to go blue.
Oh.
Um, I think I normally do every 8 weeks. Mine is a little bit higher maintenance. I have clients that I see twice a year. I do balayage a lot, and that's like a very low maintenance technique. I send them home with the color shampoo, and they can like refresh it at home. So there's definitely a lot of ways to play with color, but because I have a very high maintenance color, I do it a little more often, which works because I work in a salon, so we kind of do each other's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
not so bad.
nice. You can, yeah, play with the other stylists and play with the other stylists' hair. I mean,
Yeah.
are there certain stylists that are like, "No, I don't want color." Like, they'll do color on other people's, but they're like, "Don't color my hair. I just want my normal color."
Yes. I actually have a friend that has her natural virgin hair. She used to do black, but now it grew out, and she has beautiful virgin hair to the middle of her back, and she specializes in vivid.
Hmm.
And she's very talented. She's done my hair before. I love her, but she has a hard time sometimes getting clientele for it because she doesn't have colored hair. So
Oh.
there's something there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Because at the same time, it's like people don't realize you're not always doing your own hair as a stylist. So
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
no, just because my hair doesn't look like this, it doesn't mean that I'm not capable of doing that. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of work to just do your own hair and do a lot of coloring to it.
Yeah. I used to do my own hair, and I have no idea how. Because now that somebody else can do mine, and like we trade a lot,
Mhm.
so perfect. I can do somebody else's so much easier than my own, and they feel the same.
Yeah.
So it really works out.
So for you, I know a lot of people go through this. I know I go through this, but like you become very particular about the stylist that you work with. I mean, have you ever gotten like that with other stylists as far as like who can color your hair and treat your own hair? Or are you just pretty open to whoever because maybe you feel like you can fix it or, you know, you don't have an attachment to that anymore?
I'm very particular with my color. I'm not so much with my haircut because my haircut is very simple. There's just no layers or anything, and then a little bit of face framing. So that's pretty simple. So I'm not as picky with that. But with my color, I am. I've been lightening my color for probably 7 years now, and it's definitely a process. And there's a certain respect that you have to have for lighteners. So with my color, yeah, I have a couple of friends that I'm very comfortable sitting in the chair and being a client, and I think for me, it comes down to speed a lot of the times, because my hair is a little fragile, so I don't want lightener to be sitting on it. So creative people are great, and I love all of my creatives, but I do normally trust my friends that are a little more experienced.
Yeah. And so for people who are expanding out in their creativity, Uh, I mean, how do they typically progress when it comes to coloring their hair? Like, do you think that some people they
Okay.
just start with something very super simple and then they progress and shoot off and do something like more crazy and exaggerated, or what's that process been like that you've seen?
I think that's actually a great question because that is where your people reading abilities come in. Because sometimes I'll have somebody come in and they're like, I've never done anything to my hair, but I want it to be hot pink today, all of it. And then it's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, let's have a conversation first. Because then I have to decide if it's going to be too much of a shock.
Mhm.
Or like, people that have hair to the floor and they decided that they want to chop it all off today. So then like, it's where I kind of like grab my little chair and I sit with you, and then we have this conversation where I kind of gauge your personality because that works for some people. Some people are like, I've never done anything and I'm ready,
Mhm.
and some people are just like, there's a lot going on in my life and I want to change, and they might not be ready for that change. To like see all of your hair change colors, it's very shocking.
Yeah.
So I'll normally have that conversation with them, and then either I'll suggest something that's a little less shocking but feels very high impact, or they will do it depending on like, how they feel. But that to me is very important to gauge somebody's personality when they're trying to create a big change like that. Um, and most of the time, when you've been doing it for so long, like you get there. Like I remember when we did your hair, you were a little like, I don't know about this.
I
And the
know.
whole time I was like, okay, I want you to be able to see it, but I don't want to do it so much that it's all you see.
Yeah.
So it was like finding that sweet spot. And even then, like, it was a little too light and we toned it down a little bit. And so there's always wiggle room and there's always you can do something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I know for me, I've always like going back to your point about like the first time you got that one strip done and you were like, oh no, you were like upset about it. It just took me back to growing up. My mom had a friend who would come to the house to cut hair, and I always hated it because, again, it was just kind of like, I don't know, it was like an older-ish lady, and so she kinda just shaped it out to make it look like, just, like, boxy and just, like, not the way that I wanted
Yeah.
to. It's just kinda that, like, yeah, that old school haircut where it's like, "Oh my god, don't look at me, I look like my
Yes.
grandma or something." But I was
When it's like they know how to do one haircut and you all are gonna get that haircut. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've always had issues with, finding a good hairstylist and getting it cut a certain way because, like, again, you've seen my hair, it's like it's curly and I have difficulties
hmm
sometimes just finding a balance and to have it flow properly because it'll grow out, and I've had people cut it and I've had like mullets
hmm
before and I'm like, "What is this?" Like, it's not cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, and again, like, whatever, we end up fixing it, it's hair, but that's a really interesting point that you brought up, that you have to sit there and gauge like a person's personality to figure out like what they're able to take on. And so, like, how many people do you end up finding that come to the salon that are like, I need a big change because of something that happened in their life? Like, they're like, yeah, I lost my job, or I have a breakup, or, some significant thing happened. And they're like, no, I just need to change right now. Like, is that more common than not?
It is. It is very common.
Mhm.
Sometimes they do need the change, and sometimes they just need. I always say, when people, sometimes when you do a job where you deal with clients, they'll be like, "What's your ideal clientele?" And I always joke that my ideal clientele is the mentally ill because we just need a change because
I'm
we need a
mentally
little
ill.
dopamine.
Um,
So I do find that like sometimes when we just need like a little like happy hormone, we just need a little dopamine, something good to happen. And so you want to create that happy change without overdoing it to where it's like, oh no, like what did I just do to my hair? But yeah, it happens very often. It's very often, especially because what I do is big transformations for the most part.
mhm.
So I'll do the color corrections. I do the people that have been doing box color, the people that have been doing it at home, things like that. So I definitely do see my share of like big, like life turning moments that you just want to see reflected on your image.
Yeah. And do you think that after they go through that transformation, I mean, you've already gotten like pretty skilled at just reading the individual and understanding what it is that they want, but like, do you find that there are people that just constantly stick to that pattern? Or do you think that like once they make that first initial change, they're like, okay, I'm good. Like, this is my new standard. And then that's kind of what they stick with? Or like, how often are people going through these like big changes when it comes to their image?
I think that when people are ready to do it, they do keep doing it. I'm like that. Me myself. I once I started changing my hair very often, I just started. I never stopped. Like even just right now, we put this black, and I'm like, okay, now I want it to be more blue, and I want more black, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a constant thing because if it's a good experience, this the first time you do it, then it's like you always crave that feeling again.
Mhm.
It's just like anything good that you do that you love to do, then it's just kind of like, oh, I remember when I did my hair like this. Now I want to do it again. Or like, what if I do this now? Because now that you have somebody that you can trust, first of all, Like now that you know you can come in, sit on my chair, tell me what you want, and I'll find the best way to make it happen for you, then there's no worry anymore. There's only the good feeling of like, I know she's gonna do it, or I know that if I tell her this, she's gonna make it happen. So yeah, I feel like it happens very often actually in my chair. My girls do it all the time,
Mhm.
especially my girls that do colorful changes. If you do the vivid, then you're always like you're sitting in the chair thinking about your next one for
Mm.
sure. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, interesting. Yeah, you just kinda wanna go through the rainbow and try all the different styles.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. And it does take a really long time to color hair, right? Like, it's not just the length that you
yeah.
have to worry about, it's also, like, the intensity of the color, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I um I do I do a lot of darker hair. I feel like I started doing everything and then I just kind of fell into a niche. And so now I do a lot of like Hispanic girls find me a lot because a lot
Mhm.
of my girls on my page are Hispanic. And people with dark hair or what we call ethnic hair have a harder time finding a stylist sometimes because of the amount of pigment that's in our hair. So we can't go from like black hair to blonde. You have to go through like the stages of red, orange, yellow, that like mustardy yellow, and then you get to like that blonde. Um, so yeah, I feel like now I have found more of
Yeah, it takes more time. You're going from literally black or like a
it.
really dark color and just trying to lighten it takes a long time without like
Yes,
zapping it and really killing the root or like the hair because it's like
yeah,
drying it out when you're taking all that color out and taking out all the moisture and
yes.
everything out. Yeah, that's
And then
big.
especially if you have curly hair, you don't want to damage the curl pattern, and so that's its
Mhm.
own separate thing too, because your hair can be healthy and just not curl anymore. So it's
Mm,
like finding that balance between getting you as light as you want to be and delivering what you want while also taking care of the integrity of your hair.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah.
And so most people, do you think if they have curly hair, are they always trying to opt for like straight hair or how many people are, constantly switching back and forth between the two? Like, do you find a lot of people that come in with straight hair, like, I really want curly hair and they kind of bounce back and forth or
I think that right now we're in this era of like people really embracing themselves, and I'm so happy to see it because now a lot of my curly girls are like, I want to see how curly I can get. I want to see what my hair can do on its own. Um, and so I feel like I'm finding more of that, like just embracing your curls. Back in the day, yeah. Back in the day, it was like I wanted to be straight. Chemical straightening services were a big thing. The Brazilian blowout was like a big thing for a long time. um, there's a Japanese straightening service too that was like a hit all throughout the 2000s because it gives you like straight hair.
yeah.
But now, even in other communities that have been doing like relaxers or things like that, they're also embracing their curls. So I've been really happy with that. I love to see just the beauty of everything. Like we were created so differently, and now we're just trying to like turn into the same person. And I don't know. I'm just happy to see people embracing their natural texture. Even straight hair, like the girls with straight hair, you're kind of seeing it the other way around, where girls with straight hair want curly hair now.
Mm.
But some of my girls are like, it naturally dries straight. We can just leave it straight. I like it, and so yeah, I'm happy with that. But yeah, I see more of not so much trying to change from one to the other, but embracing their own.
Yeah. I mean, that's really great too, because like you said, people get so sucked into being like, I need to look like this person and I got to look like this and I got to look like that. And, with social
Mhm.
media or celebrities or influencers,
Yeah.
they want to like copy that certain style and look instead of just embracing what they already have. And so, yeah, so that's really interesting. I mean, do you think that that's just like here in Austin, or do you think that that's kind of a trend that's starting to happen, within the US or even worldwide? Like, what do you think?
I think embracing your texture, I'm seeing it pretty much around the world. But what I see that is very unique to Austin is that or not necessarily to Austin, but like to more like bigger progressive cities, is people being able to show their personality through their image more. Like now I have people that are teachers. I have a friend who's a paralegal, and we just did her hair pink like
Oh,
recently
really?
for her birthday. And so I'm just like, yeah, like I'm just loving it. A lot of my teachers are telling me that now that they have gone to the Vivid, their students seem to like them better and trust them better.
Hmm.
And I think it's because now they're actually showing like I'm not this like stiff, follow the rules and you'll get in trouble type of person, but like it's showing like a softer side of them. And not to rant, but it takes me to the idea of like colorful hair not being professional,
Yeah.
that I think is starting to lose that stigma. And I'm so happy to see that because, I mean, you have an entire industry of girls with colorful hair that show up on time, that work really hard, that go home and, manage their business online. And it's like, your hair is not stopping you from doing that. So letting people embrace their, or like more like show who they want to be through their image, like it's a push in the right direction, I feel like.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that that touches on a very important point is just the more authentic you are, the more people can trust you because you're not trying to hide behind
Yeah.
something. You're not just like wearing a mask that blends in with everybody else. It's like, well, who are you really, So but it's
Yes.
really important to embrace that authenticity and really tap into who you are. And I can definitely agree with the whole, yeah, professionalism, the different industries and things like that. Like I work in like the clinical research pharma industry and a lot of it is still very like
Hmm.
professional. Like you don't come in and you don't really ever see anybody with colored hair at all.
Yeah.
And there was one girl that I worked with and she ended up, eventually like coloring her hair and having like pink with blonde and just kind of having like that
Hmm.
colorful like unicorn cotton candy look to it. And it was like the first person that I've saw in my office that had colored her hair like that. And it's not like her work ethic changed. She was a very like good
Hmm.
worker. She was a great performer and she was finally just like embracing herself and being comfortable in her work and being like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that I got my shit together. Like I know that I can do my job and this and that." And then she just decided to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to color my hair." And then she did it and like I don't know how people, perceived her after that, but, she from last I heard, she was still moving up and, like, getting those promotions and things like
Yeah.
that, so it's like, so long as the work is good, hair color really shouldn't matter.
Yeah. And sometimes it gives you like this level of confidence because now you look how you want to look.
Mhm.
And confidence can only help you and it can never hurt you. Like real confidence, overconfidence that's like fake or whatever, that's different.
Yeah,
But real, true confidence in who you are, it like gives you a fuel that takes you farther in life.
yeah. Do you think like a lot of people that walk into the salon and they do their hair, like do you feel like a confidence when they leave? Like do they end up leaving much more confidently and more upbeat and stuff? Or do you think like their energy levels are still kind of the same?
I think it's very rare that somebody comes into the salon and gets the type of service that we offer and leaves feeling defeated or not confident.
Mhm.
Um, you don't even need to do like a huge change. If you go to a salon and you get a blowout and you get that like scrubbing and that shampoo and that like hour long conversation, by the time that you leave with your hair big and bouncy and like refreshed, it just puts a pep in your step. Like there's no way that you can have that and then feel depressed after. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. It's just you're being taken care of, like sometimes
Mhm.
you just need that. And I don't know, there's something very comforting about having somebody do your hair too. You're I
Yes.
don't know, it takes me back to, like, childhood when, hopefully you had somebody who wasn't, like, ripping your
Yeah.
hair through a lot of the times, but it's like, it's a
Yes.
nurturing thing for somebody to go and brush your hair and, like, kinda take care of you. I think that there's something kind of, like, healing and very soothing in that, and if you can play with
Yeah.
color and you can play with what you want as far as your style and your presentation, then why not go and try something like that?
I remember my grandma used to always say that when you touch people, you're putting your energy in them.
Yeah.
And I think that's still true. And so I always try to be very careful with like my own mood when I'm in the salon.
Mm,
I feel like if I come in feeling just depressed or like trying to be like, oh, I'm just trying to get through the day, then you're putting that energy on somebody else. And I think that's like, I don't know, to me, things like that are so important. So I always try to come in and like ground myself and, kind of be in a better mood to be able to give you that too,
mhm,
because we spend so much time together when we're at the salon, like, and I'm touching you. And I even read this article once that said that when you are in somebody's like personal bubble, like their personal space, they automatically trust you because we don't allow people to get that close to us unless we trust them.
mhm,
So it kind of tricks your brain into feeling like we're already in that type of intimacy. And things like that just kind of like
mm,
always stay in my mind for that reason because people do tell me a lot of personal things and like deep,
yeah,
heavy things that they've been carrying because I'm touching them. I'm massaging their shoulders and massaging their neck and their scalp and like parting their hair, running my hands through their hair and things like that are so intimate that you automatically feel like you're intimate with this person. So I feel like there's something to be said about how you conduct yourself with clients in that level of like we are being trusted daily.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm sure you and I have opened up about a bunch of random stuff too, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine, like, the kind of stories that you hear from other people and, like, their struggles, and it's almost like you're not just being, like, a caretaker, but, like, I don't wanna say therapist because, like, yeah, you can advise and
Yeah.
you can say this and that, but, like, it's like a one-off thing, but, like, yeah, you're lending your ear to this other person. That's like a whole other
Yeah.
trait that you have to take on that a lot of people don't realize in this kind of, like, field.
Yeah, it's like it's really a friendship
Yeah.
because like yeah, a therapist has a certain level of education to deal with the information. But I think the way that we're talked to is like a close friend. And so you feel like you can unload a little bit, and you feel like you can tell things that and not feel judged. So to me, it does feel like a friendship. And sometimes it's hard to separate like my long term clients. I mean, at this point, they're my friends because
Mm.
at some point I start telling them things too. But yeah, it's just the best part of everything. I mean, of course, I love coloring hair and I love playing in hair. That was what got me in it. But now the people are just like, I'm so blessed to literally see everyone from different walks of life. Like I have like older clients that are like CEOs of their business and they're very straightforward. They want like a very professional haircut. They want to come in, close their eyes, and like just get their haircut. And like they'll tell me their stories too, and it's so interesting to see them. And then the next person is like this 19-year-old that wants like purple hair all over,
Yeah.
and it's just such a different vibe. I always joke that when I'm at the salon, like I have a couple guys that come in that my entire salon knows them, and one of them is I literally see his name on my book, and we're all just excited for the day
Yeah.
because he's so smart, and he always has a great conversation about a new documentary that he saw. We talk about conspiracy theories a lot because I
Yeah,
love
those are
lore
fun.
and myths and conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. And because he's so smart, he always has like some, I don't know, just like something that's not just run of the mill. He has like great stories, so I'm always looking forward to that. And then I always have my girlies too that I love, and like I always, I don't know, I joke that like the conversations that you find in a salon are always not what people expected. Like it's never a vapid conversation. It's always so deep and so like you almost have to take a minute in between clients to kind of come back to earth from the conversations that
Yeah.
you just had. So I do love
Yeah, it feels like you should write a book and just be like,
that.
this one
Maybe.
client told me this," and, like, obviously, like, you don't have to use names or
Yeah.
identifiers, but, like, it would just
No,
be
of course,
interesting
yeah.
to hear the kind of stories and the things that you, like, deal with when it comes to some of your clients.
Confessions of a hairstylist.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think that would be really
It would
interesting.
be fun.
I had an Uber driver who
Yeah,
said he was
I
gonna do that, so I was like, "Oh, that's perfect for you too."
that yes, I never thought about it, but yeah, they also hear and see a lot.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, and so with hair, like, that's one of your creative outlets. Do you have any other creative outlets that you typically like to dive into?
I was a makeup artist for a long time, so there's definitely that. I think it's just art, like anything that has to do with anything creative, just like makes me so happy. I feel like at some point when your hobby becomes your job, it's so all consuming that like I started to say that I don't have hobbies because my job is my hobby. So when I'm done at the salon, then I come home and do my friend's hair. So
Mm,
or I come home and like look at videos of hair coloring or look into education or it's just so I'm so blessed to have something that I enjoy so much that it's like not a job to where I almost have to put a limit to myself of how much I can do it so I don't burn out.
yeah.
Because otherwise I'll do it all the time. And then my roommate is actually a barber, so we always say that like we overbook ourselves so much that we have to like check each other and be like, have you given yourself a free day?
Yeah.
Like, have you had a day off this month? Um, and a lot of times we don't.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you gotta start adding that onto your calendar. Remember self-care?
Yeah,
Self-care.
yeah, yeah. This last month I didn't actually give myself a day off, and I felt it. I was like, I just need to like sit in my bed a whole day. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun, and I would do it again.
Yeah. I mean, but that just goes to show, like, you really love what it is that you do, and you got to
Yeah.
now you get to do it all the time because you took that chance to just ask that question and see whether it was worth going down, like, down that road, and you took that
Yes.
chance and you made those sacrifices, and now you're doing something that you love, which is, like, so great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time is gonna pass regardless, so you might as well be doing what you love to do. And I mean, if you love it and you're willing to put in the time and energy into like, making it happen, then it's gonna happen. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And so, for anybody out there who's interested in either getting into like hairstyling or just like any creative project or anything that they just, they're just teetering back and forth. They're like, "Oh, I don't know if I should do this, blah 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 blah." Like, is there anything that you want to like suggest, or do you have any like tips or anything like that that you want to share with our listeners?
Yes. I say use social media to your advantage. We always talk about social media being this like, bad thing and it holds us back and I think it's such an important tool because if even if you are an introvert, even if you don't like to go out and do things and talk to people, I think if you want to do something, start asking around. Find if you want to be, I don't know, if you want to be a hairstylist, there's 35 million hairstylists online. Send them a DM, ask around. I actually recently read.
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever watched Euphoria,
No.
but their main makeup artist. Well, we've all heard about Euphoria, and the makeup part of it is like it's been such a big thing. Their main makeup artist ended up getting hired because she messaged them.
Oh,
And she was just
really?
like a girl playing in makeup in her bedroom. And she was like, I want to work for them. And so she messaged them and she was like, what do I need to do to work for you? And they checked her out and they invited her to work with them. And now she's like one of the head makeup artists for a show that big. So I think if you want to do something,
Mhm.
don't ever think that it's too big of a dream because the worst that somebody can say is no. I'll be messaging magazines all the time, and I'm like, "Hey, do you guys need a hairstylist on set?"
Mhm.
And sometimes they say yes, and I've done a couple magazines just because I messaged them. I recently messaged Danger Jones, and I was like, "What do I need to do to work for you? Like, just tell me, and I'll make it happen."
Right.
And so I don't know. Maybe they'll reply, maybe they won't. But it's just like take the chance. Like
Yeah.
the worst thing that can happen is that somebody says no, and then you have an answer.
Yeah. And then even then, it's like you can still work around that and you can go find somebody else who's gonna say yes,
Yeah.
and sometimes that opportunity might even be better than what you were expecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how I feel about your 30s in general. Like all of those little seeds that you plant in your 20s, all of those no's are seeds.
Mhm.
And then you turn 30 and you start looking back and you're like, I got that no because this yes was coming and it was bigger.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and even for anybody who's older than your 30s and you're listening, like, I don't want you to think that, like, you're
Hmm.
too late, like, nobody's
Oh, no.
ever too late. The only time
Never.
it's too late is when you're literally on your deathbed and you're like, and that's it,
Yeah.
then it's like, "Alright, yeah, you kinda messed up there," but it's never too late, and it doesn't matter what
No.
stage of life somebody is in, a change, a big change, a life change is always going to be scary, no matter what it is that you
Yep.
do. But if it's something that your heart and your soul are calling you towards, it's just like take those steps
Yes.
because life, the universe, everything is just, it's going to come to you in its own way. And it
Yes.
seems like it comes to you naturally and easily. Um, I don't know. Like even for me, like I've noticed, like as I start taking certain steps forward, it's like random people just pop into my life or certain opportunities just
Hmm.
pop up and I'm like, "Where did this come from? Okay, sure. Like I'll take it on. Like I don't know
Yes.
if I'm ready for this opportunity, but I'm not going to say no. I'm going to like just dive in and do what I can and figure it out along the way."
I feel like I'm such a walking cliche because I'm always like quoting little things, but I'm like, if you weren't ready, the opportunity wouldn't present itself. So
Mm,
if the opportunity is there, is being given to you. I don't know if you believe, in like God or the universe or whatever your belief system is, but like if an opportunity is presented to you, it's because it belongs to you.
mm,
It's already written. It's already yours. So yes, and yeah, I mean, there's a Spanish saying that says, "As long as there's life, there's hope."
yeah.
So there's yeah, never too late for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And so is there, let me see. So you have Instagram. Would you like to share what your Instagram is for people who would love to just get to know you, follow you, maybe even message you and ask some questions as well?
Yes, my Instagram is Kendi Colors, Kendi. And yeah, my DMs are always open. It's mostly my business Instagram, but there's like little snippets of me just being my weird self. I have a TikTok with the same handle, so pretty straightforward. But yeah,
That's awesome. And I'll put all of that information in the description so people could just like go in and click on it and then they can go and follow it. So feel free to check that out as well. And yeah, if you're ever in Austin, check out Golden Soul Salon. And Kendi
yes,
Kendi may do your hair. She may do it. She's
yeah,
stepping up in her
definitely.
roles too. So that's gonna be exciting to see how like she continues to grow within that salon and just in your creative journey and as a stylist. That's gonna be really exciting to see.
Yes, and to anybody that's thinking about going into a creative um, career, whether it's hairstylist, makeup, painting, well, I hope that we run into one of the circles one day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll happen. If it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen.
For it to happen, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kendi. I really appreciate all your time and to everybody who took some time to listen today. I really appreciate your time as well. And I hope you got some inspiration on again just taking the steps towards your inspiration, towards your
Hmm.
curiosity and trying to find that love and fulfillment that you want. It's worth taking a chance. And as you can see from somebody who's super passionate about her work, it doesn't even become work once you start doing it. It's just like so natural. And it's almost like you have to force yourself to stop doing it because you love it that much. So I think that's definitely worth taking a risk.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for listening and we'll chat soon.